Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. This is an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we discuss an anime and then turn the discussion over to you to carry on. We think of ourselves as a book club that doesn't read very much. If you've tuned in before, you already knew that, but if it is your first time, now you're kind of caught up to speed. We watched an anime over the past 2 weeks. We're going to discuss it, but before we do, I need to introduce my co-host who have much better thoughts on it than I do. So first off, we have the Sabre to my Shiro, Jeremy. What's up, man?
So, yeah, things are good, except for the massive flood in my apartment. Otherwise, things are good. I just can't catch a break lately.
Adventures for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like get a PlayStation and bam, everything just falls apart.
In our household, we always say bad things happen in threes. It just seems to washer goes out, car dies, kid has trouble at school. Okay.
So you're telling me I've got one more coming. That's what I'm hearing. Because I've only got two so far. Thanks a lot.
Did you have anything fun?
I did play Titanfall. I found some time and played it all the way through. Titanfall 2, actually, I should specify. And I loved it. No multiplayer for me, but the campaign was a lot of fun. I love the mobility. And, God, being a pilot, you're way more mobile even than the Titan.
How are the interaction between the pilot and the robot? Don't they become like buddies and stuff? Did that come off cross good?
Yeah, as far as the campaign storytelling goes, I really like it. I like the character arc, the way that relationship developed. You never got the sense that he was not a robot, but you always had this tingling in the back of your mind where you were wondering, boy, he's been a robot for so long. Maybe some of these quirks give him a little bit more humanity than you might expect. And yeah, it's very well done, I think.
So also we have the Kirei to my Gilgamesh, Jason. I know you don't know who that is, Jason, but you should be offended.
Is that Kirei Kotomine?
Yes.
Aha.
Still lost on. So.
The villain. They're the villains of Fate Stay Night.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I like villains. So, anyways, fantastic. I bought a game that has drove me down into depression. You guys know I like the survival genre, and I got this War of Mine, and I've heard so much about it throughout the, it's been out for a while. Man, I found out how much of a terrible human being I am. I was running low on food. I think I had one meal from the spread between my three guys. And I went to this place because it said, oh, there should be lots of food there. And I find out it's like this 55-year-old dude trying to keep his like 80-year-old mom alive. And I didn't realize that was the case while I was robbing their fridge of all their food.
Is there like an option to put it back?
No, once you steal it, it's stolen. Because then I saw like the conversation between them as I'm like sneaking around, like stealing from their fridge, and then I just left, and I was like, I didn't have to steal from them.
I've played that. That's
it's heavy. Yeah, it's heavy. But having a blast with it.
Yeah.
So how's the plot twist to my Last Jedi, Troy?
Well, it's funny you should mention that. So my name is Troy, and my life has been Star Wars for the past week. Just waiting for Star Wars, getting to see Star Wars, avoiding Star Wars spoilers, and playing. So if you've listened to one of our more controversial episodes, I have purchased Battlefront 2, and we got the DLC story, so I got super into that. Yeah, then I went and saw the movie. I'm not going to share my thoughts on the movie because the internet's on fire. And I'm not jumping into it. Okay. But we are going to talk about this anime that airs on Netflix, and it's called Fate Apocrypha. It is a side story, a reboot, a spin-off of the Fate Stay Night series. And guys, there's like we're going to say the words, and these two guys started battling, and then these two people started battling, and then these two people were still battling. So get ready for that. Before we get into more spoilery details, though, we're going to share our non-spoilery reviews, so you can decide if you want to see it or not. Jeremy chose it, so what do you think, man?
So I think it's really important to keep in mind that we've only seen the first half of the season, episodes 1 through 12. At this point, there's definitely things that I'm not fond of. It is a little blah, but it's the kind of anime I like. So I still enjoyed it a lot. And I would still say if you're looking for a Fate, go watch a different Fate. But if you've watched the others and you still want more, watch it. You'd probably like it.
I think that's a really fair thing to advise people. Yeah. Jason, what do you think?
Well, then in that case, I'll preface it with this is my first Fate. I did.
That's your own fault.
That is. We've told you.
I watched the first 3 episodes of Fate Stay, and I was bored to tears, and I just stopped watching it.
Yeah, you need to watch Phase Zero.
And this is very similar. I didn't get attached to any of the characters. A little bit to Mordred because I thought she was kind of a neat character. The last, okay, yeah. Let's not get too deep into it. It didn't grab me. I felt myself just not caring about any of the characters, and all the storylines were so blah and bland that I would not finish the next half if it wasn't on our docket.
So, yay for the docket!
A crazy thing. I agree with both of you.
And you have seen other Fates.
If you haven't seen a Fate, this is the one to go watch. If you're desperate for Fates, this will tide you over. This will be a nice, it's almost like a filler, is what we're watching. But I'm not super into it. But I want to give them credits. The production value they put into their fights is top notch, probably second to none. Ever since Fate Zero, then Unlimited Blade Works, and even the other series I haven't seen, they know how to do an anime battle, and they know how to do it well. If you like that kind of thing and aren't super worried about characters and plot, yeah, watch this. Watch this a lot.
Well, at least for the first half. I mean, I don't know where the plot's going to go from here, but it kind of feels a little boring.
I will give a small caveat with my review is that the fight scenes were absolutely gorgeous. I did enjoy every single one. But the rest of it was like pairing water with rice out of the cooker.
Isn't that perfect, though? Like,
same? Did you just make that up?
Water, tasteless. Rice, bland. Pair them together.
oh.
You still have a bland meal.
Oh, I guess I see what you mean.
How tense are both of you? Anyways, let's move on.
You guys have any thoughts on the opening and closings? Because I don't.
So the opening, I like the very beginning of it, and then it just goes away. Yeah, it's weird. I don't like how off-tune it is.
This is gonna be a fun podcast episode. I have a feeling.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna be good. Jason's made clear his views.
The opening was. I forced myself to watch it because about halfway through it, I wanted to skip it the first time.
Well, it's not Kisniver, right?
It is not Kisniver. Kisniver is cancer in the form of anime. This was just bland.
This is gonna be fun.
I think I watched it the first time for beginning and ending and skipped it every time afterwards. There's nothing in it that caught me.
Music was not good.
I'm sure I let it play once when I was like checking my phone and just yeah, the music just there was nothing. There was no hook to it, and the animations themselves didn't catch me at all. Sorry, this is probably one of the worst OP closings we've had since we started talking about them.
I think also at the very end of the intro, it always says, oh yeah, this music's by Aniplex and da-da-da-da-da-da. And it starts to play the music intro again, and then it just cuts out. And that was so disorienting. It was, I really didn't like that presentation.
So before we get into spoiler sections, I should mention the studio is A1 Pictures. They work on Seven Deadly Sins, Erased, and Occultic 9.
That makes sense.
The director is Yoshiyuki Asai, and the only other anime he's done before is an anime called Charlotte, and I don't even know what that is. He's worked on other animes before, but this was his second series director credit, so I kind of wonder if that has something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, with that said, now here's our spoiler warning. We are going to be getting into plot. We're going to be getting into so many characters.
Yeah, too many, frankly.
Yeah, I've even cut them down, but I'm sure the other ones are going to come up. I have thoughts on most of them, but yeah, spoiler warning, guys. If you have not seen it, now's the time to turn off the podcast. If you like, hey, I do love Fate Night, and I do want to watch a filler story. Okay, so this anime starts off with two false beginnings. First is like a boy in space, and he's turning into a dragon, and a woman is calling for him, and they talk about a promise. Standard anime stuff. There's not a problem that it's there. It was weird that this started with two false starts. And the second start is in media res, the big battle that we're going to get to, and like highlights from it and showing who's fighting who. And then we don't know who any of these characters are. But the anime starts what.
I wanted to ask if you guys, do you remember what the boy was wrapped around at the beginning? I seem to remember it being a glowing yellow orb.
Glowing ball.
Could that have been the Great Grail?
I guess.
Like in some symbolic form?
Now, he does say this is a tale about a man who gets his wish granted.
So they're talking about Sabre Black, though.
No, well, I mean, later.
Well, no, that quote, I took it to mean Sabre of Black, because his wish was to help somebody, and we'll get to that.
And his desire was to fulfill it himself with his own hands.
Right.
I took it to be the homunculus, but okay.
It could be. Up till this point with what we've seen, these 12 episodes, we've seen one person have a personal wish fulfilled.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. The anime starts proper where we meet my favorite character walking through the academy for magic users. This has been established in Fate Stay Night, but we should know Fate Stay Night is a series about a world with magicians, and every once in a while, this magic object called the Holy Grail shows up, and it'll grant wishes, and they have this special magic battle where you get what's called a servant, who's a historical figure from the past, and a magician. They team up, and they have to fight 6 other teams, and whoever survives the longest gets to make the wish. The new war is about to start. They've called in my man Shishigo. Shishigo. Shishigo.
But this one's different because it's the Greater Grail, not the regular Grail. Are we getting
some weird stuff happened, yeah.
Okay, we're getting to that. My bad.
The only thing I want to say is this is a alternate timeline of the regular Fate Stay Nights. Something happened in the past that has diverted the timeline. Namely, the Grail was stolen in the last war and disappeared.
Okay, hold on. Is this Zelda in anime form? What is going on?
I mean, hey, I'd love to tell you what the Grail is, but I don't know.
Well, I'm a little worried about like spoiling the other Fate series.
It is kind of
by giving too much information.
How about we give a spoiler warning? We're going to spoil the other Fates as well.
I guess we could say that this little vignette may, to some degree, spoil one of the other Fates.
Because I'm going to be grilling you guys a little bit on the other ones because I want to see the context. Because I want to.
Yeah. That's going to be rough. I don't know. Should we spoil all the Fates in one?
We're a bunch of Bakas. We're spoiling all the Fates series.
Okay. We'll spoil what we know.
Perfect.
If they've watched this, they're kind of getting spoiled on the other Fate series anyway. They're learning about Holy Wars.
It's true.
And I don't think Jason's going to ask pointed questions about character development for characters that aren't existing. So we'll see. But for the most part, let's drop a spoiler warning for the other Fates, all the other Fate series. I haven't watched the one where there's magic girls. Sorry, I'm not doing it.
Me neither.
So then my first question is relevant to what we're talking about at the moment with this first episode. The leader of the Yaga Millennia, is he in other fates?
No, he's ancient history of the other fates. Basically, the war before.
So he's the lore of the other ones.
Yes. Well,
I guess
what
technically, but
with him, yeah.
I've never heard of him.
Yeah, do you remember
okay.
how? Do you remember how in Fate Zero, they talk about how in the previous war there was some kind of weird revenge thing where one of the servants got summoned as a vengeance spirit and it went through and wiped them out. I think it was in Fate Zero it was talked about. It was this war that the Yaga Millennia guy took part in, and I don't know if he personally was there or if it was another variation of his family, but that's the war that he got the German army involved in, and they called the Grail, and then they stole the Greater Grail and left with it.
Because they were talking about the minor Grail is usually a spirit or a person.
So what I've seen is it's been inside of, and again, this is a huge spoiler.
It could be inside the ruler, right? The Lesser Grail.
This is a huge spoiler. I don't think it's usually in a servant.
It's not in a servant. They have created it into a person before. That's
what they mentioned in this anime.
It's almost an idea of that it can take other shapes. And there's something I noticed when things happen in these Grail Wars. They're like, here's the rules, and then things happen that make no sense, like servants and masters fusing. That's like, is that a thing that can happen? And there's a quote where Shishigo says, "There's a Grail War. Anything goes." Like, any wacky thing you can imagine can happen in a Grail War. So a Grail could be a person. A Grail could turn into a building. Like, if that happened in the next Fate Stay Night, people wouldn't blink an eye. They'd be like, okay, it's a building this time.
Yeah, so I can kind of see that. That's weird.
Rule of what the Grail has to be or the foreman has to take. It's almost an idea that, and we never actually see someone like holding it and granting a wish. It always turns into like anime gobbledygook at the end.
Yeah.
So here's another pointed question I kind of need answered. If Master summons a servant and Master runs out of command seals, is it now just a trust-based relationship at that point, or do they lose their servant?
Yep, they lose.
Okay, so like the servant disappears and is no longer there. Servant dies, or servant goes amok.
I believe the servant is gone. I believe that they've officially lost.
So they disappear.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, yeah.
Okay. And if a master dies,
then the servant is free, and another master who may have lost their servant can form a pact with that servant.
Okay, so the servant doesn't disappear.
The servant's lifelines are tied to the magical energy of their masters. A servant can last a little while without a master, but he will run out of gas and disappear. Mm-hmm. So you would have to find a new magic source. Now we've seen there's always a way, like, hey, if I eat your heart, I get a magic source.
Like Jack. Yeah.
We like I said, the rules constantly don't make any sense and change randomly.
Well, I don't know if that, like, they do have a basic underlying structure, but they are very flexible within that structure.
Right. It's almost like real world. Like, yeah, this is physics, but we can do all these different things with physics. So it's just our imagination or a limit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those were just kind of a couple things that they just assumed the viewer knew.
Yeah.
It's explained in the other fates, and it's not explained here.
You don't have time in this one.
You get 3 command seals. Yep. So my understanding of it is that a servant is always inclined to obey their master, but they are still a creature of free will, so they can choose to disobey. The 3 command seals are 3 commands they cannot disobey no matter what.
Right, and they showed that and explained that pretty well.
Also, I always thought that was actually a really cool thing about Fate, is that when you're summoning servants, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to ally with you. They can actually be convinced, even while they have a command seal bond with you, they can be convinced to change sides and switch to someone else. Like,
there was a little bit of that near.
It's very Game of Thronesy almost. Like, you don't know who's going to stab you in the back.
Might even be your friend.
Yeah.
And is this the first Fate with like homunculi in it?
No.
Okay. I thought that was an interesting point, but we'll get into that.
This is the biggest role they've. I don't know if that's true. Anyway, so the first character we meet properly is Shishigo. What did you guys think of him? I do want to talk about him just for a minute. Time to do.
So I will save total judgment till the next half. But so far up to this point, they have this amazing character with huge potential because I really liked him and his personality and the way he interacted with his world, and they just let it fall.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the character. I especially love his take on like what a necromancer is a guy who shoots fingers out of a shotgun and throws heart bombs. Like heart grenades. I never imagined that as a take on a necromancer. And
I love his printer.
What was that?
I love his printer.
Oh my god, yes. It's like a skeleton hand attached to a skeleton clipboard that just kind of writes with a pen. I love that. No, I love the guy, and you're absolutely right. They've got so much potential for him. I don't think they've dropped him just because I see him being central to the remaining episodes. I really do. I think he's going to be.
I think what I meant by drop is they introduced him, and he's in a couple pivotal points, and he gets his own episode, and I just wish they would have used him more because I liked watching him and his relationship with his servant.
So I think I mostly agree with that. And I think we all agree that this anime has too many characters. Yeah. I think we've all said that at some point. But with so many characters crowding the field, this character's personality, voice actor, powers and stuff is establishing himself, getting a beacon to shine on himself, even in the few scenes he has. And that makes him very endearing to me that we didn't need to get like a complicated backstory for him. I liked him almost instantly and was caring about his arc almost instantly. And a lot of characters didn't rise up to that challenge.
And I love the fact that I love the fact that he immediately, when he was asked, hey, will you be part of this by the preacher guy? He's like, yeah, but not with you. I'll be your ally, but from over here.
I did love that he had trust issues. That was great.
Yeah. So he's invited because a new super Holy Grail War, they're calling it the Great Holy Grail War, is starting because the people that stole the Holy Grail, they want to activate it. So to activate it, they had to call in servants. That automatically creates another side. And normally it's seven masters, 7 servants, because they have 7 masters and 7 servants all on their side. It turned into this super Holy Grail War where another 7 servants and 7 masters are chosen to participate, and the 2 sides will battle. When one side is wiped out, a regular Grail War will break out with the remaining members, and then they will fight to be the last one to make the wish.
Can we stop there just for a second? I'm really sorry. So this other group that we haven't talked about yet, they have the Great Grail, right? Mm-hmm. So why can't they make a wish with it?
You have a Grail War.
So wait, so you have
the Grail? The Grail's alive, man.
You say, hey, I want to make a wish. And they're like, oh, well, you got to fight over me first. And but I already have you. It's like you're going to have to fight me.
It's got a will of its own.
So it's said, I've heard this in other fates, that the Grail War is a means by which to sacrifice lives to the Grail so that it has the power to grant the wish.
Okay. Does this happen in other fates where someone finds the Grail, they're like, hey, I want to make a wish, and then like servants appear and bloodbath ensues?
No, the church holds on to the Lesser Grail usually, or one of the families has it or something. And then, so it all switched just because that guy stole it with the German evil army. Okay. But under normal circumstances, the Lesser Grail is either with one of the families or with the church, and then it's all brokered by the church guy. And these different masters that show up, only the church guy knows who they all are. They're not supposed to know who each other are, but they all have to register. And
I want to get to the point quickly. Okay. So Lesser Grail, somebody's got it. Is it every time someone goes to make a wish, like war ensues?
No, it's a set period of time.
So is it
like
just
every 30 years or something?
Okay, so you can only make a wish every 30 years. I'm trying to wrap my brain around this whole.
Okay, you're pushing it from the wrong angle though. Imagine that the Grail is like, I desire souls. Kill each other, and I'll give one of you something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like an entity that wants to feed every 30 years. It's Pennywise.
Yes. There you go. The Grail is Pennywise. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, has the Greater Grail been mentioned ever before? Okay, so this is the first time
I've ever heard.
I didn't know
that we've heard of it.
I didn't know there was another Grail to the Grail.
Yeah, the way they always referred to it before was like the Lesser Grail will manifest at the end, or they would just say the Grail will manifest after the war is finished.
So Grails in this story are the real bad guys.
Yeah, you could say that.
We can move on. Thank you, Trey.
Jeremy answered it. I've been quiet.
Oh no, I'm thanking you for giving me the time.
Yeah, because I run this podcast. We get to see the other side, the other army, the Yugo Millennia, who needs more.
We're gonna have fun with that.
The way they pronounce it is Yuga de Millennia.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yuga de Millennia.
I turned on subtitles once so I could write it down once, and yeah, that's it. I'll probably just call it Millennia, the Millennia faction.
There you go.
They have. So usually all mages like obey the mage association, right? Like, oh, okay, we won't go to war because there's a overseeing group. Well, this group has decided, screw that. Our family is what matters. And like I said, they're the ones who want to start this war. And they have figured out a tactic to give them unlimited energy is to create a ton of homunculi, fake humans, give them magic powers, and then feed on them like batteries so that the masters won't be fed on by their servants in the normal Grail Wars. That's
another question about that. Sorry. Do they feed off them, and then when they're out of magical energy, they then send them into war, or was that a separate group that they sent out to the battlefield?
I think it was a separate group.
Okay.
I think they created homunculi specifically with magic. They're called magic circuits. To be a mage, you have to have these magic circuits, but basically, it's like you have to have the force.
It's like midichlorians in your blood.
Can we talk about midichlorians for a minute?
No, not. Oh, it's forbidden.
The internet.
We get to see at the end of the first episode the masters for they're called the Black Team too. That's the Millennia side. They call in their servants, and we see Shishigo call in his servant. He's given a piece of the round table, which if you've watched A Fate Stay Night, you're like, oh, I know who's coming. I know who's coming. That's not who shows up.
Nope.
We get the character Mordred. We will discuss her later when she has her big moment. But basically, she is the son of King Arthur who betrayed King Arthur.
Well,
no questions about that?
No, it was very well explained, actually. That's one of the reasons she's my favorite character, is there was a clear-cut reason why she was angry, a bit misguided, perhaps, and also her fighting style and her bravado were just a joy to watch.
You understand why she's a man?
I understand why she wants to be a man.
No, I don't think you do.
Please, explain away.
This is one of my favorite things about.
Well, because you need to be king, but
only okay.
King Arthur is a woman, so even though
and pulled the sword from the stone, and they're like, yeah, but a woman can't be king. Okay, then she's a man. No,
right.
She's a man. And so Mordred, also wanting to be king, refuses to be identified as a woman because being a king is all that matters.
Right. In fact, I would have rather watched that anime than this one.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
From the backstory I saw, yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so then we get a shot of who turns out to be Joan of Arc, or Joan d'Arc.
Why does Joan of Arc always show up in these?
They're really pulling this, I think, from Fate Grand Order, the game. Like, I looked into that a little while back, and it has a multitude of characters, and I even saw Kodamine there.
Yeah. So every Grail War has a ruler, right?
That's a first try.
Yeah.
That's what she said. She said every Grail War has a ruler that's a servant that's not summoned by a master, but that's summoned by the Grail.
She's a liar.
In other Grail Wars we've seen, there's always a ref from the church who oversees that the rules are followed to middling success. Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time a servant has been that we've ever seen.
That's because it's the greater Grail.
And it might be. But they did act like it's weird that she's there. They're like, hey, guys, just
But everyone was expecting her.
I don't know. I didn't get the impression that everybody was expecting her until all of a sudden.
Millennia was really expecting her and wanted her to be on their side.
Yeah.
Because it was a greater war.
Yeah.
And she's even not sure why she's there. She keeps being like, is this why I ended up in this war?
And she couldn't even materialize her own body.
Yeah, it's true. She had to possess someone.
Because something went wrong, she said. She was summoned to the war. She doesn't know why she was summoned to the war. She shouldn't be there.
Which does imply rulers are not normally summoned to the wars.
Right. And then when she got summoned, something went wrong. And so she had to ask for permission to borrow a body from a human girl.
Right. Human girl is hot.
No. We meet all the servants for Melania's team. And they introduce themselves. Now, this is a big sticking point for me. They all start saying their names out loud. Fate Stay Night, saying your name is a major no-no. Because if you know the identity of the hero that you're battling, you have a good idea of their skills, their weaknesses, and what their ultimate power could be. And you can tactically prepare for that. So it's always a big thing to keep your secret identity.
And I thought this was actually really interesting because I had the same reaction, but when you look at the casters of the Black faction, like they're all blood relatives, and they all look up to Dernick. I think that was his name, right? And they all have this weird trust for him, even though they know that technically there would still be a free-for-all afterwards, except for the big tubby guy that summons Siegfried, who's like, no, you don't tell anybody who you are, you know? So I wonder if that was a trust issue where all of them just trusted him.
I felt like the red servants were doing it too.
Yeah. And I think that was because the church guy was organizing it and kind of acting like this. No, we're all on the same side. It'll all work out fine. We need to work together, so we need to know our secrets. And trust issues, I think.
The only thing we've kind of mentioned everything else that already happened in this episode, like meeting the Shiro, who's the priest who is running the red team a lot, and the ruler class has been summoned. That you find that out, but the only thing is Mordred, who is Sabre of Red, or as I will probably call her, Red Sabre, because that's way easier. Her and Shishigo start like exploring into the enemy territory, and they get attacked by the golems and the homunculi, and they win easily, and they're like, what was that about? But it kind of was a show off to each other what they're capable of, especially for Mordred. She keeps saying, watch me, master, watch me kill these guys.
Yeah.
Give me your approval.
Mm-hmm. The next episode starts with a homunculi escaping the lab from Millennia. He's going to be our main character eventually.
Someday.
Mm-hmm.
This was really weird because it's kind of obvious he's going to be the main character, but they spend almost no time on him for like this is episode 3.
12 episodes. 12 episodes. I still have no idea what he's supposed to be doing.
You know, I have to say that in watching this, I couldn't figure out like who was important and who wasn't, because I know from watching other Fates that characters that you think might be important, sometimes they just die. And so I was watching these characters and I'm like, okay, you seem important, but I don't know what's going to happen with you. And you see,
He's in the intro a lot.
Yeah, and he is, but he's also in the intro along with that other kid, Roche, who's just basically an apprentice to the golem maker, right? And yet that kid doesn't seem like he's that important.
There's
Who's
more
like-
focus on ruler than there is
Siegfried?
anyone.
If he was in there, I thought it was image.
Yeah,
of,
it was the two of them side by side.
I thought that was him and him, two of him.
No, it was him and Roche.
To visualize that there's two of him.
The hair was different. It looked like Roche's hair.
Okay, so
blonde.
No, they have almost the same hair.
new sideline.
It's just I'm going to be right about this, and the podcast is going to be over. No one's going to know it.
Okay, new sideline. There doesn't seem to be a good guy in this whole anime.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it wasn't like a good side like association versus a bad guy association. And it's like both of these associations are terrible people.
Would you say that's also Fate Zero?
Yeah, that is how fate is. Is like there is no good guy. If you're gonna win, you got to do some underhanded crap.
Great. Fate Stay Night is definitely Fate Stay Night is almost shonen because it's very focused on. I mean, the main character's thing is he wants to be a hero. Like he sucks, and he's like, no, I'm helping. And they're like, no, you don't understand. You don't help. Like, no, I'm getting in there.
Like there's some redeeming qualities about some characters on both sides, but yeah, it's like for the most part, it's like as groups, they're both terrible people.
And a lot of times the servants are good people and who are just caught. They're just they gave themselves to the idea of someday fighting in these wars. They can be summoned at any time. They can even lose and then come back and get summoned in war.
So this anime gave the impression that the only way to become summonable is if you had a wish in life that you wanted.
Right.
Granted.
And so when you die, the Grail comes to you and is like, hey, you want to be a servant? You could get your wish that you didn't get someday. And then from then on, you're like in the roster of summonables. And then if someday some mage pulls you into the war. And like I said, you could die in a war and then get summoned in the next one if a mage to draw you again.
But they need an artifact as a catalyst.
Right.
Okay.
Lancer has a scene here where Red Team is trying to kill her, and Black Team is trying to recruit her. And so Red Lancer, who is named Karna, he comes to kill her, and then Sabre of Black shows up and fights Karna. And they're like, "Oh, you want to help Ruler?" And she's like, "No, I don't help." But this is a good time to talk about Ruler and what we thought of her. Jeremy is still trying to prove me wrong. So, Jason, what do you think?
Very typical heroine anime character. Very little to her. She didn't play off the Joan of Arc thing very well, except for the "I want to save people." So that was disappointing.
Her weapon is a flag.
Yeah, well, it's a spear with a flag on it. It's a standard, which was cool. I actually kind of liked her weapon. I thought it was an interesting symbol, especially for someone to be of authority. And I liked the idea of, oh God, my summoning didn't work well. Hey, chick, do you want to let me possess you? I found that to be an interesting story point in this world where you can summon spirits to come fight for you. Past that, it was very much watching her 4 steps behind what was really happening. So it was kind of uninteresting to watch her chase everything.
For me, she's kind of flat and just kind of spends the first 12 episodes chasing the plot.
Yeah.
I want to get there where the things are happening, and then coming in like the next episode, there was a fight here. Yeah, there was. We watched it. Thank you.
Thank you, detective.
I think she has potential to get better, though, especially now that she's kind of met up with who I think is going to be our big bad. I don't actually know who's going to be the big bad, but I believe it's...
I'm extremely frustrated that not only did it take this long for her to get there, but that we're going to have to wait for the rest of it.
I think my only issue is she's very nonchalantly okay with the Red Team trying to murder her. Like, they repeatedly are attacking her, and she's just like, yeah, no, I'm not worried about that. That's not.
Yeah, I think that's because she has so much power that she doesn't care. She's so much stronger than them. She's even got like command control over the servants.
Yeah, which is I like the idea that her ultimate power is to command the other servants to do whatever she wants them to do.
Okay, so update. I just looked up the intro, and you're correct. That is him. But if you look at the art, he looks like an adult. Like one of them, he looks like a little kid.
It looks like there's like a little chibi one and a big one. You're right about that.
I think that's what threw me. But yeah, it is definitely him. So I don't know where they're going with that.
Troy, ask.
Because I didn't take the time to look it up. Jeremy went out of his way, and he could have just like, hey, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, no.
I
gotta make sure it's accurate.
Like I said earlier, I've argued enough with Jeremy today.
That's right. You're burned out.
Jeremy, what did you think of Ruler?
I thought that it wasn't her time to shine. I think that again, it's so hard because there's 12 episodes left, and I know that now that she's in the middle of it, she's gonna be important. But up until now, I think that they were so busy introducing other characters, we just didn't get to know her yet. And what we did get to know seems interesting, but it seems like what I would expect from a Joan of Arc character. Like nothing that shocked me, nothing that surprised me, but it was not unpleasant. It was still appropriate for what I would expect from a Joan of Arc.
The only I wonder if it's the fact that she's Joan of Arc, or the Grail messing with her. Where are her visions coming from?
I wonder if it's just a ruler thing. I have no idea, though.
Well, there's a ruler to every Grail Wars.
So. Joan of Arc claimed to have visions. Wasn't that a thing?
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. So maybe that is part of her like phantasms.
Right. Because she's obviously a big believer in God, being the character. Mm-hmm. So I don't. But again, it could just be the Grail messing with her. We don't know. So I think there's a lot of. I think you're right. I think there's potential there. It wasn't a character I hated, but the the guy that breaks out of the vat, he gets found by the Rider of Black, Astolfo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Astolfo.
Who is one of the 12 heroes of Charlemagne? I don't. Mm-hmm. Jeremy, you're going to have to help me out with if that's important.
It's only important in the sense that this is very similar to the Round Table. The 12 Paladins of Charlemagne are kind of a mirror of that in a way. And so this character was known for doing all kinds of crazy things, like going to the moon to fetch the wits of another paladin named Roland, who had lost his wits. And his wits went where all lost things go. It went to the moon. And so he actually went and he literally retrieved the guy's wits and brought them back so that Roland could rejoin them. He was like imprisoned in a tree for a long period of time and all kinds of other stuff. And
is there a reason he's a writer?
Because he was one of the knights that are always on horses. The paladins always rode on horses.
How else is he going to get to the moon? He's going to fly his griffin.
Yeah, his horse was actually very much like a Pegasus style of horse, and sometimes it's called a griffin, I guess. So.
And was there anything in his backstory about
he was beautiful? He was beautiful, but that's all it says. And so having him appear in this manner, where I thought it was a chick for a really long time. I mean, I didn't even realize when you told me, Troy, when you told me yeah, no, it's a dude, Jeremy. I'm like, you're kidding me.
It wasn't until I got to episode 5 that someone called him. And because they gender swap a lot of characters. Frankenstein in this is a woman. It's interesting that Frankenstein wears a wedding dress. And I'm like,
I love that.
Are you Bride of Frankenstein? But yeah, a lot of characters are gender swapped. And you just find out, history had it wrong. And there's a thing about the servants that they are both the people they were in the past mixed with the legend of who they were.
Yes.
When they're summoned. You're not just your old self. You are everything that was made up about you at the time. So,
and you're also brought up to speed on current events, right?
Yeah. You get a data download from your master to understand how they can operate vehicles and stuff.
To a degree. I remember Alexander the Great was really inquisitive about things in Zero. So he didn't like know everything about what was going on. But yeah, when it comes to, like you say, vehicles and things like that, if they can ride a horse, they get to ride a car, drive a car.
Sabre was like, I can drive anything because I could ride a horse in my life. So now that skill translates to I can now drive everything in modern times.
Yep.
And I think they said something like that in this for Sabre Red. She drives at one point is like, yeah, I can ride a horse, so I know how to do everything.
You guys watched the dubbed version, right?
Yes.
Okay, I watched the sub version, so that's why. Like, I keep hearing you guys say things that were said, and they weren't said for me.
Did you find a good sub version? Because I saw that you said you couldn't find a decent translation.
Apparently, that is the decent translation. Not great.
It's because it's a Netflix, and it was meant to be dubbed for Netflix, and they didn't want to share.
Yep.
I appreciate that you took that hit though and stuck to the sub so we could have the other viewpoint.
Yeah, it's not great. Not great this time. It was interesting because everything was very literal, but there were a lot of confusing moments where I'm like, okay, how do I parse this? What do I think they meant?
Guys, your thoughts on Rider of Black? Just in general, what you're dislike?
It was all right. I didn't really the character wasn't dear to me, but I didn't hate having Astolfo on camera.
I kind of thought Astolfo was the comedy relief, as much as there was any comedy relief in this. She was the empathetic. God, I keep wanting to say she.
I'm going to do it too. I wrote down she so many times, even after I knew.
Yeah, it's so frustrating because it's like the paladin was male, but it looks like a gender-swapped character, but then it's not.
Female voice actress, too?
Yeah, it's like everything is there to confuse you. But it's like this is the heart. This character is very much the heart. Out of all the ones that I'm seeing, the most compassionate, the most, if I see something that I want to fix or I want to help, I'm going to immediately leap on it and do that. And so it was kind of nice to see that amidst all these other characters that were just trying to either be the good soldier boy or had some kind of villainous intent.
There's something that just kept bugging me. So I like the character just fine. It's that, like you said, he is the character that has the most heart and wants to help. And yet it starts the whole main plot for the main character, right? Because finds the homunculi, helps him escape later, looks after him, and is almost like should be the second main character of our series because he gets tied up in this, and he's not. He's so side character that I feel like he shouldn't be involved in this plot arc, and that just kept hitting me like, you're not important enough to be doing this. Go away.
But he had way too much plot armor. There were too many times where he got attacked where he probably could have died. And then also, it was very inconsistent. It felt Deus Ex Machina to this one special homunculus, I'm going to help him escape, but I'm not going to help any of the others.
I guess in his own way, he did try to help them by not using their magical energies.
Yeah, he did that. It was because the homunculi asked, right?
So it's important to understand, too, that the homunculi themselves are automatons. Like they even comment on how they don't have emotions and things like that. So this one is very unique in that it wants to live, it has emotions, and it's trying to escape. And I think that's what sets it apart as something that Astolfo would save, as opposed to preserving the lives of the other ones while not taking them out of a situation that they aren't complaining about. So
I kind of look at it like this. Like, if I don't know anything about a homunculi, I'm told by the people that have summoned me, hey, they don't have personalities. They're just existing to serve magic things. But then I find one with a personality, with a will to live, and I'm going to help them. Why would I trust that sentiment and not just go look for myself and break another one out and see if they fit the bill or if they're like this one that wants to live?
Because there's all the soldiers.
He did what he wanted anyways. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Things keep progressing from here, and what's important is that Berserker of Red, who is Spartacus,
really odd.
There's noble phantasm here.
not just noble fantasies, just very odd interpretation of him.
Spartacus.
Like, I'm this mindless creep that will just go after whoever's most powerful because they're oppressors.
No, a part of it is because when you become Berserker, it does actually mess with you. Because we've seen we've seen, I think it's Hercules was a Berserker once, and he was very similar in just like, not what you think of Hercules. Yeah, more mindless monster. And it's a spoiler to reveal who the other Berserker was from Fate Zero, but that was also a very intelligent character who was driven to madness because of the Berserker role.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It really is a normal person who dies with almost a rage inside their heart, and that gets them pushed into the Berserker slot. And so when they are brought back, that Berserker status makes them weird.
Now, I learned something as I was doing research a little bit into the Fate series. Apparently, when a person is added to the roster of heroes, they're not added with a class. They have a selection of classes that they can be. And so, for instance, Karna can come back as an archer. He can come back as a lancer. He can come back as something else as well, a rider, I believe. And depending on what you're called back as, it adds all of these weird factors to you. So it may be that Hercules or Spartacus could have come back as something else and not been like this at all.
And he also, Karnan mentioned that he chose not to come back as a centaur.
Oh, yeah. Karan.
Meaning that, when they come back and there's a specific role, they can choose how most comfortable or most effective to be that role.
Mm-hmm.
So the Spartacus is charging like mad into Millennia territory, and he's got two red people who are watching him, and basically a fight breaks out over him. He gets himself killed, almost killed, impaled by Vlad. Yeah, captured. And then a fight breaks out, and during the fight, one thing is the fat Millennia guy who has Sabre Black. Siegfried's master, he uses a command seal because Siegfried is not fighting at full strength like he feels he should be. He's fighting honorably, and he wants to do things with his own power, which we've kind of seen from that character. You'll notice that character isn't one we're stopping to talk about, and that's because that's about all we know about the character.
Well, there's a lot of Germanic lore about him, and he's an interesting character in his own way, which oddly they didn't tell the story that I read from German folklore. In the story I read, he died because of treachery, not because he chose to kill himself, because someone requested it. So just an odd side.
Well, he was killed in the back. You could just see it as he gave up his life, or he gave up the will to live because whoever betrayed him wanted him to die, and that it was him granting the wish. Because
that's possible.
I believe the shot is of him laying on the ground with an arrow in his back.
It's a spear, but yeah.
Spear, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that could still fit, I guess.
Maybe they just haven't given us all the details yet in the anime.
What's important about that plot point I mentioned of him using the command seal is this master is kind of losing control of his servant. And they definitely are not seeing eye to eye, which can happen. And it's going to come up in a little bit. Rider of Black uses this to get the homunculi out of the castle and run away with him. They get caught by Sabre of Black and his master, and things go bad. They start fighting amongst each other. The homunculi fights the master. He gets himself killed, and Rider of Black convinces Sabre of Black, hey, we should help this guy. Aren't we heroes? And he's like, you're right. Here's my heart. Tears it out, gives it to the boy. The homunculi comes back to life, and now no longer has his 3 years to live timeline that homunculi would have. And Sabre of Black dies, which means this guy loses his servant. He's not happy.
So I don't know if this is worth asking. It's probably not worth asking, but he tears out his heart.
Mm-hmm.
One, how does he, once it's out, continue to function? But anime. But two,
heroic spirit
and magical character.
How does it get absorbed into this kid? Anime.
Well,
and
homunculi are built around like growing from things, plus the magical mystical energy of the heroic spirit and viewing it as part of his wish.
Hold on, they actually addressed this in another scene, you know.
So those. Oh, okay. Yeah. What was it?
When they're talking about Jack the Ripper eating hearts, Shishigo mentions if you eat a heart of a mage, you're going to get magic power, and that in the exact same spot for a servant would be their magical essence.
He didn't eat it, though. It absorbed through his chest.
Yeah, I'm saying it's not a real heart, though. It's not like he put a physical heart in him. He pulled out his magical center and put it into him.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, it looked like a heart, but that could have been symbolic because he
reached inside his chest. He burrowed into his skin.
Which, as I have pointed out, the character Shishigo points out that for a servant, that's not their real heart. That is just a representation of their magical core.
Okay, so both of those are kind of minor questions. Last question. If he disappears, wouldn't everything about him disappear?
No.
It's Grail War. Anything goes. Oh, you mean its sword? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I think he means the heart, the core.
He disappears. Why didn't his core disappear too?
I don't feel like that's a question worth asking.
So,
yeah, go
here's okay. So I think I may have an explanation. I mean, take for it what you will.
It's going to be hand wavy, I think, no matter what we do, but
it kind of will. But I think it ties into the reason why he gave his heart in the first place, which I'm sure you were going to talk about it. Was the fact that all his life he'd spent fulfilling other people's wishes and responding by being a hero when asked. But in this instance, he had an opportunity to do something that was not really asked. I mean, at best, you could say that the writer of Black said, you know, shouldn't we help this guy? And then he thought about it and said, you know what? I didn't have a wish before. I didn't have anything I wanted to do or live for. My wish is to altruistically do something without being given a quest. And so in that moment, yes, he reaches in and grabs his core and puts it in this kid, but that becomes a function of fulfilling a quest, like completing an action as a hero, which then has its effect, revives the kid, basically. It's no longer his core. If it was still his core, then he wouldn't have completed the action.
That's fair.
It's philosophical, but with a heroic spirit, it's, yeah.
So the blood of the dragon that he killed in his previous life.
No.
Did it make him invulnerable or immortal? So
the blood of the dragon makes him invincible to all but grade A class weapons. And I looked that up. But he has an Achilles heel in the shape of a lime leaf that was stuck to his back while he bathed, where the dragon's blood didn't touch him.
Okay.
So he does have a vulnerability.
So Sieg, the homunculi, he is now invulnerable? Or no?
There is a point at which Sieg takes the shape of Siegfried, and I would assume at that point he's invulnerable, but in his ordinary state, no.
Okay. I'm good, Troy. Thank you.
Since the cat's mostly out of the bag, what do you guys think of Sieg, the homunculi who's about to name himself that?
I felt it was an amazing plot point, and I actually really loved the storyline idea in the midst of this war going on. I thought it was really cool because it kind of gave me vibes of Full Metal Alchemist. Mm-hmm. That you've got this self-aware homunculi that wants to live, and they just let it fall on its face. It just turned into this bland story of I want to help. Okay.
So far, I wonder where they're going to go with it. But yeah, I agree. So far, it's kind of bland for the first part but then at the same time, I would wonder, like,
he gets no screen time.
How well? Yeah, there's so many characters. That's the big problem. I mean, that's just another symptom of that problem. The time that he does spend, like, considering his wishes when he goes to the old man's place and everything, all of that screen time is boring. But I think it does give him a greater sense of depth as a character that he at least did consider it on screen.
That's not my problem. None of the screen time helped me become endeared to the character.
I don't know if I can say that any of the screen time for any of the characters endeared me, except maybe
exactly
a little part of it.
That's my point.
Maybe Mordred and Shishigo, maybe a little bit, and Vlad
a little bit.
Yeah.
There's.
I think he's a mistreated character. I have no idea what they're going to do with him. And it does kind of put me off when I'm watching him because it's part of there's not a real villain of this series. At least in these 12 episodes, we don't get a real villain. So what's the hero doing? What's the guy you told me is the hero of this story? I mean, he's defending one side, but I'm like, but that side's kind of evil too. Are you sure you want to defend them? And he's like, there's the one person who helped me escape, and then these other homunculi, and I just want to help them. And I don't know how they're going to tie him into the main plot of, I'm guessing he'll care enough about Ruler to have to save her.
I have this weird thought that multiple people are coming at this war with an angle of ending the Grail Wars, but in their own unique ways. I don't know what their ways are, but the vision that Joan of Arc keeps having shows him in a battlefield with swords strewn about him, and it looks like he's the only survivor, perhaps, or something. And it makes me wonder if he's somehow going to bring great destruction upon everybody involved in the Grail War, and maybe even innocent bystanders. It also seems like the other two, both groups, have some kind of goal of their own of ending the Grail Wars too. So it's like you say, I have no idea where they're going with it either, but that's the impression I get.
That's so great. I'm so happy that as not a Fate person, I'm not the only one lost.
You know what I really miss from the other Fates is some of the noble phantasm, which is the ultimate attack of each servant. A lot of them had you go into alternate dimensions with them.
Yeah.
I really miss Unlimited Blade Works and how cool that looked. Yeah. Cape of swords everywhere he could just pick up and go down with, or Ryder from Fate Zero and his army just washes over you. No one has anything that big and spectacle yet. We've had a sword that blasts. We have, hey, I can send spikes through the air.
Or I can self-destruct.
Yeah, I did not like that. That one doesn't even make sense as a noble phantasm. I don't understand that.
Especially for that character, too.
Yeah.
There's two self-destructs.
I know.
Oh my god, you're right.
In the same class.
I think it's Spartacus. Wow.
And Frankenstein is the worst, though, because
she didn't seem like she needed to.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's the worst part. It just doesn't matter. I'd love to get into it, but it doesn't matter enough to talk about. Yeah. Because in episode 5, it's all about getting this boy to a home.
Yeah.
Basically, the servants of Black show up and they're like, hey, that's the homunculi we need to create our super ultimate weapon, which is a giant golem that they wanted to plug him into. That's the whole reason he was so special. And Ruler's like, yeah, I promised that Sabre guy I wouldn't let you do that, so I'm taking the boy. And they're like, well, I mean, what can we do? Ruler said no.
That's a fair reaction, I think.
Yeah, I actually liked Vlad's strategies and leading, because we're going to talk about Vlad when he gets his big moment too.
Oh, geez,
but
yeah.
Vlad Tepes, also known as Vlad the Impaler, he's the de facto leader of the Millennium side. Even though his master Darnik is the real leader, he's turned everything over to Vlad because he was a king, and a lot of people treat their servants when they're kings like, you know what, you're the king. And I'm going to trust you to be the king, usually just to keep them happy. Mm-hmm. Kings don't like showing up and having to serve people. Mm-hmm. But his strategies were kind of cool. And he makes a decision like, look, we're going to lock up Rider of Black and send her back to her pervert master. Or his pervert master.
Yeah,
I felt so out of place.
Yeah.
So out of place.
And I don't know where that's going either. Because his master is like, I want to lick all over you, but if you do anything independent, I just hate you so much and I want to kill everything. Woman, we're in the middle of a Grail War. Your perversions can wait.
Yeah, right? Yep.
Focus, lady.
Yep.
Anyway, Ruler takes this homunculi. He names himself Sieg. She takes him to an old man who's willing to take him in and basically feed him and teach him how to be a human. And drops him off and is like, hey, I'm probably never going to see you again. And as she walks away, she's like, I know I'm totally going to see him again. He has to fight in the war. I've had visions. And that's That's so this is episode 5, and this is our most time we've spent with our main character. He gets an episode,
but at half the episode, by the way.
And then it's about him.
And half episode, he's unconscious.
Okay, so
I want to make this like crystal clear.
That's fair. I'm just gonna move us on though.
Okay.
The next episode starts. It's kind of Mordred's big episode. So we're gonna talk about Mordred and really get into her. But she has her flashback of her life with King Arthur. Did Arthur.
She have the flashback, or did?
Oh, you're right. It's Shishigo who's having the flashback in his dream of her.
Which I thought was.
Yeah, that's cool.
Is that a symptom that's happened in the other fates where they have flashbacks?
Similar stuff, yeah. I think Rin had flashbacks of Archer's past because he couldn't remember who he was.
I think that's cool that the master gets flashbacks of their servants.
Yeah, there's definitely it's like a psychic link because they can even talk to each other over distance. So there's definitely a psychic link, but it's basically the first one is her fighting King Arthur and laying waste to armies and trying to take this throne. And then the other one is before that, seeing King Arthur and being like, man, King Arthur is the best. I want to be like King Arthur, joining the Knights of the Round Table, and then having her witch of a mother tell her, hey, King Arthur is your father. And when she goes to King Arthur and be like, hey, I'm your kid, King Arthur's like, nope. And that rejection causes her to be like, okay, I'm going to destroy everything you've ever created and take your kingdom. It should be noted King Arthur is a woman, so I have no idea how that witch is also the mother.
So I stumbled across something here where when I was looking at the different characters information, and it said that there was a point where King Arthur was gender bent and the witch stole some sperm. I have no idea beyond those words.
So I just want to say in this flashback, before we talk about Mordred, we get a cameo of Sabre from Fate Stay Night, Fate Zero, King Arthur, who is one of my favorite anime characters of all time. She is Bae. So this is like the happiest I had. Like these 6 episodes were just like, okay, back to guys, what did you think of Mordred as a character? It's Jason's favorite, so
yeah, my favorite. I think one of the reasons I was really endeared to her because they spent the most time on her. I think as far as all the servants, it's not very compelling, but at least it was a decent story that they told for her, or why she hated King Arthur so much, why she wants to be king, why she doesn't like being called a woman. Even though she loves the modern day short shorts and how they feel on her. But I love her fighting style. I love how her bravado, and I love how powerful she is on the battlefield. And I think I asked you guys earlier, the sabers are normally the most powerful out of all the group as far as combat abilities.
They're the most well-rounded.
Okay.
With Lancer can sometimes be pretty. I think Lancer has been the top one before, but yeah, if you get the saber, you're feeling pretty good about your draft.
Mm-hmm. Archer's been pretty powerful contender sometimes, but other times just completely. But yeah,
no, I really enjoyed the character.
Yeah, I liked her a lot. I couldn't help but picture her as the antithesis of Arthur, and obviously that's what they intended, and she did such a good job with that. She was fiery. Everything about her was like this chaotic, raging energy, and it was really cool. Yeah, I really liked that character.
And her Autobot helmet was amazing.
So I really liked her too, but for the same reason Jeremy said, and it actually makes me wonder, would I be that interested in her without that? Because every time she's having a character reaction, what's going through my head is my Saber that I know and love. How is she? How does this affect her? Like, knowing that they come from the same timeline and they affected each other so much. Watching her play out, I'm like, putting puzzle pieces together, and that does make her a very interesting character to watch. I just don't know how interested I would be with just this fiery, I want to fight everything, master. My master's so dumb.
Also, her noble phantasm was particularly boring.
Yeah, it's the same as Sabre's, basically.
Which is weird, because Sabre's is based on Excalibur, whereas this character doesn't have Excalibur because she never pulled the sword from the stone.
Right.
So,
but at least in one version of Fate Stay Night, that Sabre doesn't have Excalibur. She has a different sword, and they had to get Excalibur. We said there would be spoilers. Leave me alone.
I did love how when she joins on the battlefield against Rider of Black, for like half the fight with just Sabre of Black, she's not even wearing her armor. She's just like, "You suck." Blah blah blah. I thought that was great.
Yeah, you can tell how much she respects her opponent by like how much armor she has on, because it can grow, right? And the helmet comes down. That's when she's in full battle mode. But sometimes she just pulls it back like, what do I care?
Yep.
Her and Shishigo are contacted by the Mage Association to go investigate a bunch of serial killings that they believe are related to this holy war. And it's the assassin for the Yiga Millennia who hasn't shown up yet, and they've been like waiting for her and hoping she shows up, but she hasn't been. It's Jack the Ripper, and I don't really want to get into the character because she doesn't play a huge part except for this one episode. I'm not a fan of what they did.
It's weird.
Yes, and I feel creepy when I watch her fight for not the right reasons.
Yeah.
She
seems like she grows when she fights, though. Like, she's taller and she has a different body shape. Like, it's really weird.
Go ahead, Jason.
The gender flip was unnecessary because I felt they were just trying to do it to like throw a creepy vibe in there, and it was unnecessary. Like, Jack the Ripper is creepy all by himself and his lore. They could have they could have done something very similar with that storyline, but kept him solo. Like, that's what the lore is. He went out on his own and he murdered people. Like, if they'd left it alone with that, I think it would have been a much better storytelling the way they had it. But gender flipping and giving her an accomplice and doing the whole mommy child creepiness just felt odd, out of place, and unnecessary, and I didn't like the interpretation.
Yeah, there's I was reading up a little bit on this character too, and in like history, and they don't know, although it's generally hypothesized and accepted by most people historically, that Jack the Ripper was probably male. There's a lot of people that consider that it might have been a female, and there is
because Jack the Ripper was never caught. You can't actually gender swapped it, which is why they gender swapped it.
Right.
That's fair.
They didn't have to make it a little girl, though. I agree with that.
Absolutely. If they wanted to make it a female, but just keep it the solo person going after hearts because needs a magical energy or whatnot, because killed their master.
Yeah, they do address this later. I stumbled across this too, because this was a really weird one. I was like, what the hell's going on here?
It's going to show up in the later episodes. Try not to spoil it.
Yeah, they will address it later, and there will be more of an explanation about how the lore of this character resulted in this.
They kind of spoiled it right as they were talking about her, because then they showed the dead body, and I just assumed.
No, that's not what I mean. They kind of explained the character design.
So this might probably going to sound dumb to Jeremy since he spoiled it himself. But what I was actually hoping for was that the mommy was Jack the Ripper and the little girl was the noble phantasm of how she got into the murders. Because they the way they refer to each other, I was like, is this really like one person? Am I even needing two people? But it turns out that mommy is the master who somehow summoned, because she's acting like, I don't know what's going on. I just like that I have a little child murderer with me.
Yeah, the mom, I didn't get the impression she's the master. She didn't summon her.
I didn't see a seal on her hands either.
And that she's supplying the magical energy. She's like
Through the hearts. That's why they're hunting.
I don't know how to give you my magical, or I don't have any magical energy to give you, so I'm feeding you hearts.
Right.
That I'm your master, but I'm a sucky master because I'm not an actual mage. But I don't know.
Yeah, it plays into the lore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and she, spoiler, Jack the Ripper kills her summoner.
Yeah, the actual Black faction summoner did.
Right.
Killed.
Oh, that was at the beginning when we first.
Yeah. So not really master, just someone that's like keeping her around and
someone
trading hearts for her.
Yeah, someone that Jack the Ripper wants to keep around.
Right.
They battled this Jack the Ripper girl, and her battle is just the worst.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
No reason.
So bad.
World of anime, where you get kind of used to that kind of stuff. It's just really was like every time I saw it, I was incredible.
Very off-putting.
She comes at them with like a magic fog, which I liked with the Ripper legend that fog it plays into it. Shishigo has to run away because it's poison, but Sabre's able to battle, and they start fighting. They get interrupted by Black Archer and his wheelchair-bound master.
That's turned into Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought when I saw her.
So Sabre goes to fight the archer, and Shishigo has to fight this little girl mage. And I don't think it was her wheelchair, but she has like these robot legs attached to her back, like Dr. Octopus, and attacks him. And he's like, "What the frick?"
Yeah.
No. Let's be clear.
He named it.
This is Dr. Octopus. Everything that I know about Doc Ock, this girl had.
Yeah, I think he called them like the bronze chariot or something.
Yeah, it was a magical item that he was aware of what it was.
Yeah.
But it had all these super cool powers. It could block things and
climb walls.
He managed to win by running her over with a car.
Yeah.
That's kind of great. And the episode ends with him turning and shooting dead fingers out of his shotgun at her.
Which we saw could home in a previous attack.
Right. And they're anti-magic. And we've seen anti-magic bullets before. We know that kind of thing, but they do more damage to magic things.
And then he's got like rotting hearts that have poison in them. Then he can like toss his grenades.
He's got like...
You never seen a necromancer with a rotting heart grenade?
No, actually.
He's also got like that hand where he's like, all right, hand, make a safe barrier. And like this decapitated, or not decapitated, but this dismembered hand is just like, it just gets up and it runs around the area. I just love everything about his magic style. It's so creepy and weird.
It's pretty
But
good.
he's a good guy because he was doing that to protect the town. Like, but he's on the wrong side.
I don't know who's good and bad.
And the wrong side of magic because necromancy is like strictly forbidden in most RPGs.
Not in this one.
The wheelchair girl's brother shows up and saves her, and the Millennia team runs away. Jack gets away, and she goes back to eating hearts so that she can keep her power.
There's also a fight that kind of goes on between. It was Sabre and Karen.
Right, which kind of just peters out because he has to run away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I kept thinking Achilles was involved somehow here, but it's later.
I did like his, I need to take a sword to the shoulder in order to land a blow on this lady. And then it ends up really screwing him.
Yeah, he's like, I'm dead. Crap.
Yeah, that was a bad move.
Yeah. I love that he's predicting the whole thing, and he's like, he's doing a commentary on himself the whole time. And like, this is a wise centaur not even a demigod. He's the child of Cronus, the Titan, right? So he's been given the task of teaching Achilles and Hercules and all of these demigods. And so he's immensely wise. He's got the wisdom of the immortals, right? And so he's looking at the situation like, crap. It's such a funny irony seeing someone so wise realize they're in a predicament that they can't think their way out of.
So Jack the Ripper is continually feeding on mage hearts because it's lost its connection with her master.
Yep.
So she's going to disappear if she doesn't keep feeding.
She's an independent servant right now.
Right.
There was something I wanted to say. Oh, it's that in these recaps, probably the worst thing about this anime for our podcast listeners is in these recaps, I can't do these anime battles justice. I can be like, hey, these two fought. And then they pour their money, and there's literal money going into this stuff. You can tell that there's so, explosions that were so loud and flashing on the screen that they were almost like bright out, shielding my eyes. But they get crazy.
The movements of the characters are swift and accurate, but they're easy to see and ingest as a viewer. But they're fast, they're clean, and yeah, it's just a joy to watch all the battles.
Yeah, so I feel bad because I'm like, yeah, Sabre and Archer when they had a battle, and like that was really cool, but I can't
do it. Play
I can't tell you that other than it was really cool. And every battle was so cool, it's almost hard to point out which ones were super worth watching.
Pretty much anything involving Karna was pretty awesome.
Any of the battles, I thought they were all
any of them.
I think Karna was top notch, but yeah, all of them are amazing.
The red team, who is being pursued by Ruler because she's having visions of Shiro, their leader, they activate their trap card and pull out the Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
Otherwise known as the Protoss Mothership.
What's really funny is this thing ended up being like so powerful, and Jason sent that message. That's the weakest thing ever.
No, it was great.
Oh, it kind of came back on you.
Yeah.
It is the Red Assassin's superpower.
Who is this assassin?
So Semiramis, when I first heard that name, I thought, oh my God, it's the wife of Bel and the mother wife of Nimrod. Holy crap. But it didn't turn out to be her. It turned out to be a queen of Assyria later, who was also called the Queen of Heavens. And so she's basically just a really important Okay, of the things that I found that she's really known for, the only ones that really stood out to me from a quick read was that she was the first woman to not even just the first woman, but she's the one who Chastity Belt originated with, and also turning young boys into eunuchs. So those are the things that she's known for right off the bat when you look her up. She's not a good lady.
So let's be clear about her phantasm. That thing is straight from a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah. Yep.
It's yeah.
There's no gardens to be had.
They're magic gardens. The gardens of magic tapestries. Yes.
AKA Bone Skeleton Army.
Yes. Well, actually, she has this control over poison, which those skeletal bone things on the ground, and also the ones that come out of the air. There is some. They are related somehow. I forget what they're called, but they're related to some kind of poisonous myths. Like in some way, they themselves are poisonous, and so because of that, she's able to summon them into her fortress. There is some kind of logic behind why they're incorporated into her, because she's based around poison. I don't understand why she's based around poison. I missed that, but that's what's going on.
Basically, the red team's plan comes to fruition here is that we get this flying fortress and we fly straight at them and we just wreck them. We have an army now of skeleton things that could just come out of this garden. We have aerial advantage and we can deploy and come back as we will.
That was all a ruse, though. The real purpose was to go just suck up the Greater Grail.
It's basically the fortress from Spaceballs.
Yes.
Suck.
From suck to blow.
Oh, God.
But basically from here till the end, the big battle starts. The one that we saw a shot of in the very first episode starts here. And so there's a lot of battles happening. So I'm going to try to summarize, especially because one will start and then we'll see glimpses of it for 3 episodes long. And then they just stop.
Other stuff happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to, I went through and tried to highlight the important stuff. Karen?
Karna?
Karen.
Oh, Karen.
Karen, yeah. He's battling Vlad, which is Lancer versus Lancer.
No, that's Karna.
Karna
Versus Vlad.
Karna versus Vlad. Lancer versus Lancer. Lancer Red, Lancer Black. And we get to see Vlad's power, which is really cool. And that, because he's Vlad the Impaler, he impales spikes everywhere.
And I like that it wasn't prohibited to only the ground, but he mentioned that his power is the idea of being impaled. So he could impale him just from his own chest.
Yes. Yep.
And it's funny because whenever these guys start fighting, they're like, "You were like the one guy that could stand up to me."
Yeah.
Because Red Lantern can make explosions and make the spikes go away. And he's got very durable, so he can handle being impaled multiple times, which he does.
So Karna is actually a really interesting character. It comes from Indian writings. And he was born with that golden armor and golden earrings on, which are supposed to actually be the sun turned into metal. So he has an armor that is described as being difficult for even the gods to destroy. So this means that in game terms, if you look at his stats, he actually reduces any incoming damage by 9/10. So only 1/10 of the incoming damage actually gets to him. And then he's incredibly anti-magic resistant. So this guy is like, they have this structure of martial capability, and a person who is considered a master of every single weapon and every fighting style has a name. I don't remember what the name is, but Karna is of the tier of warriors that are worth 2 of those. And one of those can take on like 400 regular soldiers or something.
That's why he mentioned he could take on armies.
Yeah, he's like, by myself, I could take you and your entire country.
Yeah.
So.
And it's also important to note in this fight that Vlad has a significant power boost, because not only is he on his home turf, so he gets a power boost from that, but also he's sucking magic from the homunculi, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, this start fighting is Achilles with his old teacher, whose name Jeremy will now say.
Which was a great scene. I love this fight.
Fantastic.
It was really cool when he rushes at him and then trips because he gets hit in the heel. He's like, "Wait, how'd you know that?" He's like, "Hey, it's me, your teacher, the guy who weakness, who literally told you what your weakness is."
Yeah. I loved Achilles, like his instant reaction of like, "I don't want to fight you though. This is not you don't really see that a lot, where the servants themselves have this double take of, I don't want to kill this other servant because of the relationship I had with him in a previous life." Right. That was nice.
Yeah, actually, it played well, because in earlier scenes we've seen him, he is just for the battle, and he battles to have fun more than he does to fulfill some sort of obligation.
Yep.
I also liked in their fight the element of, "I taught you, so I know your moves." He's like, "Yeah, you taught me, but I also battled 1,000 times, and I've evolved from your teacher."
Yeah.
And again, these battles are beautiful. Yes. Oh yeah, it's just a joy to watch.
Sneak shows up and he starts. The homunculus are being sent out as soldiers to battle the skeleton army, and he's going around and actually bandaging them up, and even gets a couple to help him free the rest of them. So he's literally taking the magic batteries away from these four. Yeah. And I like that he had his own agenda. Like I said, I just wasn't quite sure how this is going to tie in. Like, no one even commented, like, where is our magic, though? What's happening here? It's just kind of the side thing that's happening. And he comes back around because he sees Rider of Black get knocked out of the sky when he attacks the garden. And so Sieg's like, "Oh, that's the guy who helped me. I have to go." And the other homunculus are like, "Yeah, you should totally go. You've given us freedom. So now you are free to go help your friend." In a very anime thing. Like, we all knew he was going to go over there. Calm down, everybody. And of course, when he gets there, who shows up but Sabre of Red, Mordred, and she's like, "Hey guys, let's fight." She drives up in a car that she's been driving cross country with no roads. destroyed it.
Yeah, the thing is trash too by the time she stops. Like the windows are all broken, like the paint job's just destroyed.
Also, what's going on is Shiro, that the priest guy who's running the red team, encounters Frankenstein. And what was really interesting about that battle is not so much that Shiro is powerful, because we're kind of getting the sense that there's a lot more to him than we see. But I loved William Shakespeare as a
Caster.
And that like he can be writing this story, like he's orchestrating the events that we're seeing, but he also uses his power on Frankenstein to make her see her old creator, Victor Frankenstein, and she goes into a rage and just beats him to death.
Yeah.
But he's an interesting character to add, because he keeps saying, like, when Spartacus is going crazy because he re-enters the battlefield, and he's like, I planned this, or I weave this into the story. And remember, Spartacus has switched sides, so I'm really confused of what Shakespeare's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And no one is saying anything right now on this podcast to help.
Well, it's interesting because he's mentioned multiple times he's not going to go fight. He's like, I'm not here to fight. I'm here just to observe. And I didn't get the sense that he was orchestrating events. Is that what he was there for? Is that his power?
I have no idea. I really like your take on it, Troy. I don't know what they're doing with him. He's tricky. I don't like him.
I like his power of basically manipulate people's vision, like give them delusions.
Yeah. Maybe I should rephrase. It's not that I don't like his character type. It's that I don't like. He gives me the heebie-jeebies. There's something not right going on there. I don't know what he's doing yet.
Who's a writer being on your side, and he's held like he's part of the top team members. He's not being sent out. He's not an expendable resource. He is part of the grand plan.
And which is interesting because you missed one part, that Shiro is the Assassin of Black's master.
But he's going to fight.
Right. Instead of letting her go down, he leaves her to run things on the Hanging Gardens, and ends up with a fight with the Berserker of Black.
I think it should also be mentioned that the golem
kicks his ass.
Yeah. The golem servant, the one that is on the black side, caster of black that creates the golems, he actually forges a pact with Spartacus. He severs the pact that Spartacus had with his caster and takes over Spartacus. So it's not just a simple, like, I've persuaded you. He is actually his master too, from what I understand.
And casters, we know from other Fate Night, casters can do that because they have so much more magical energy than the other servants that they can actually take on servants themselves. And
I did like that he wasn't in a combat role either. He was more of a tactical role, logistics role.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair to Shakespeare, I've never understood a thing that man's ever said.
Yeah.
Boom. So I'm not
real life or in
right. To be fair, he could just be saying random things that I am overinterpreting for sure. So then we get into Sieg fighting Mordred, and he's getting his butt whipped, and Ryder is trying to save him and protect him, and that's not going well for her. But then Frankenstein shows up. Frankenstein, shows up. She also gets destroyed by Mordred. Arm cut off. Things are not going well. And there's a really touching moment. We haven't really touched on any of Frankenstein's story throughout this, but there have been little snippets of her master really cares for her, and has really looked out for her. And the first thing he said to her is, never go full power because you will self-destruct. It's too much power for your stitched together body to handle. Because she's already losing, she grabs onto Mordred, uses like her own wires through her body to wrap around her neck, and starts activating her noble phantasm, her ultimate blast. And her master's like, okay, that's how you want to do it. I order you to go full blast, because that's what Frankenstein wants. And this destructive wave is super powerful, big explosion. Also should be mentioned, Sieg's already been stabbed through the chest at this point and is dead again. Yes. This electricity from this blast brings him back to life somehow.
Actually, that is something about this noble phantasm. It's the noble phantasm of death and rebirth.
Oh, yeah, so she was stealing life energy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, apparently, casters can fortify the magic their servant is using.
Yep.
Or what's that?
Anything goes in a Grail War.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay. No. There is a law for this, and the law is that as a caster, not a caster, but as a master, the servant feeds off of your energy, and so you can actually choose to push more of that energy. And if the servant is also going to absorb that energy faster, yeah, they can drain you because you both agree to it.
Right. And the whole reason servants don't run around using their noble phantasm 100% of the time is how much power it takes.
Exactly.
It drains the masters. Mordred survives this.
Unbelievably.
Because she a scratch, actually. Huh?
Mordred has super armor, so she's able to take blast.
Also, her master used a command seal and gave energy to help fortify her too.
And then he starts pumping magic into her to heal her. But while this is happening, good old Sieg is talking with Siegfried in his mind, and there's a dragon there, and there's a sword there, and he pulls the sword. It's very symbolical, but it transforms him into Siegfried. And then so Black Sabre is back on the field, and Red Sabre, of course, when she got there, was like, Black Sabre died on purpose? What a loser! Yeah. And so now Black Sabre's in front of her, and she's like, wait a second, what's going on here? And she figures out he's a fake, and so that's very offensive to her. And they start fighting and are pretty evenly matched, and he unleashes his noble phantasm, which is very similar to her noble phantasm. I think it's just a very Sabre noble phantasm to shoot anime sword blast.
Yeah, he has a special sword as well. It's kind of like Excalibur.
After this giant explosion draws a lot of people over, Ruler shows up, and she's like, hey, what's going on over here? Spartacus shows up, but because he's trying to get to Ruler, or he was drawn over to kill Ruler, and he's giant now because Archer shot him so many times, and he regenerates and mutates every time he gets damage.
Shakespeare notified us of his noble phantasm, and that is to regenerate damage. The problem is that Caster of Black modified him. And as he regenerates, he like double regenerates, and you can see him in early stages. As he takes damage, he like starts growing and growing and growing and growing. But then Shakespeare goes, there is a limit, and he's about to reach it. And once he does reach that limit, then he just does the huge
pops.
Yeah,
that is fascinating that Shakespeare understands that he has a limit, just like intuitively. I thought
weird. Shakespeare said he planned this.
Yeah,
that is weird.
I'm not sure.
I didn't catch that in the subversion. So
it would make sense though, because they're looking for a distraction to get to that castle, and this explosion does it.
It always bothered me that Spartacus just immediately took off running for the other faction.
And they watched him do it. They followed him there and made sure he got there.
Yeah.
And then
interesting. Shakespeare is one of the protagonists of the Grand Order conflicts of Fate Grand Order.
So he's a good guy in the game. Interesting.
Sieg reaches his limit. He transforms back. Sabre then attacks Spartacus and cuts him almost in half, which is what pushes him to his limit. He gets ready for that big explosion, and Ruler and Rider of Black are like, yeah, we can't leave Sieg here. We can't just let this happen. Ruler face tanks it, shields up, and takes this thing full on. It's a really cool effect because he didn't just like explode. He basically barfs energy out straight on this giant energy beam.
Blast.
Right. It hits her and splits, and behind her, like to the left, everything is destroyed. To the right is everything destroyed, and there's just this cone behind her of everything protected. And she actually protects most of the castle, but it takes a lot of damage from this. And the Garden of Babylon just starts flying in to activate its suck.
Well, yeah, during this whole conflict, it kind of used it as a cover to get over the castle.
Right. And so this is the red team's ultimate plan, is that they get over and they makes like this tornado, hits the ground and starts pulling this giant globe orb ball with an angel face statue on top of it thing.
Bunch of lady busts inside of it.
Yeah. It looks something like from Destiny, but with golden, and lifts up into the Garden of Babylon. The black servants start rushing up to go. They stop their fights and they rush in there to go with it.
Oh, it's not magic; it's light. No.
The red servants are there to meet him, and the fighting resumes. And one of the important parts is that Vlad is way weaker in this castle. And he finds out it's because, you're super strong when you're in Romania. Garden of Babylon is technically not Romania. Like, it's officially part of another country that we flew over here. So now you suck because you're in here.
And the homunculi that were the magic circuits have been released.
Right. So they're all losing power, but Vlad is especially weak. He's getting his butt kicked. And that's when we get a nice little flashback to Vlad talking to Darnik, who we should talk about Darnik and Shiro here in a second. But Darnik, who's the head of this Millennia family and Vlad's master, telling him, "Do you hear the rumors about me? Like, you hear what happened to the stories about Vlad after I died, the hero of Romania, the king who protected his country? They made me a vampire." Bullcrap.
Yep.
And he's like, "Now you listen to me. Never, ever will we ever use the Dracula power."
He said, "I would rather die than use my normal
thing. If you ever even command me to, I will do things to you. I don't even get to tell you what I'm going to do to you. It's so bad."
Yep.
Because episode 12 being what it is, we should talk about our two main big bads that kind of are having their plans come to fruition throughout these battles. And one is Darnik, and the other is Shiro. So what do you guys think of these guys?
So we find out Darnik, well, I guess we've known about this for a while, that he's been using the Grail and feeding on the homunculi to stay young? Or what has he been feeding on to stay young?
Babies.
Yeah, I don't assume homunculi have souls usually, so I think he's been feeding off people.
I thought they said baby souls. Didn't they say baby souls?
In the beginning of the show, they said that people thought he merged his soul with a baby's soul. But at the end here, it says that he's been eating people's souls, and we don't know whether that maybe is a reference to the babies or not.
They also mentioned that he's ingested so many souls, he doesn't know who he is anymore. Like, because it's like he has to share that thing, and they merge, and so he loses half of his identity every time, and he doesn't even know who. All he knows is win the Grail War.
Wow!
And get to the root, which is that a common thing throughout the Fate series as well? What, Troy?
I don't know what that means.
They keep talking about the spiraling root. What is that?
You know, I either never picked it up from the other Fate series. The other Fate series were like about a boy who wanted to be a hero who gets caught up in this weird war, and he's like, "This is all bullcrap." But I'm already stuck in it, and I need to be a good guy.
They keep saying all mages want to get to the spiraling root. They said it multiple times across this entire season.
I don't even remember the spiraling route in Fate Zero. I remember that in Fate Zero, the plot was that they wanted to basically unite the houses instead of having the war.
Right. The families, every family wanted the Grail, so A, they'd be prestigious for winning the war, and B, they get a wish of being the best family.
Mm-hmm.
I was semi-excited to find out what that meant, and now I'm even more disappointed.
It might
I'm
be
sure we'll
something.
find out.
Yeah, it might be something in this series. It's just not something.
Yeah, maybe.
And it could have been referenced before, and I just never picked it up too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought I'm split on Darnik. One, we don't get enough screen time with him to hate him as a villain. He's also not all that villainous for a villain. I mean, except for the I eat human souls to keep myself young. That's a bit on the evil side.
Just a bit.
But he's doing this mainly for his family, but they want to get to the spiraling root, which you just told me you have no idea what that is, so that's lovely. Shiro, should we wait to talk about him in detail until we get to the very end, or are we at the end?
We're basically episode 12 is going to reveal his full thing, so I'm fine with doing it now.
Okay. I thought he was interesting for a long time, and then he just became boring because they just kept teasing it and kept teasing it and kept teasing it, and then finally you get this amazing last half of episode 11, episode 12. Like, I really enjoyed those 45 minutes. Like, that was great storytelling, especially on the back of all this like character buildup. Like Vlad's transformation, finding out who Shiro is, and like Joan of Arc finally catching up with the leader of the red team and finding out who he is. Which apparently he's a ruler. Which, if he's a ruler, does that mean Joan of Arc's not going to disappear either after the war's over?
No, it's because of what happened with the Greater Grail. He's still around.
Right. There is a precedent for some time servants are turned into humans.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there is a precedent.
There is a precedent, yeah.
Okay.
That's happened to one other character, and I'm assuming they're doing the same thing with him.
Okay, and because in their flashback back in Germany, Darnik saw Shiro across the street.
They battled. They keep talking about how they battled. They literally have fought each other before. It wasn't this they know of each other.
Oh, okay. Because, yeah, there was some dead girl for Shiro.
Who was a homunculi for Shiro. Yeah.
Okay.
White hair, red eyes. That was a homunculi.
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. You're right. White hair is usually a sign of homunculi. Why does our main character have brown hair?
Black hair.
Our main character has black hair?
Is it black hair or brown?
The main character has brown hair.
Oh, yeah, it's brown. Okay.
And all those homunculi do. Now,
the ones that fight, though.
Some of them have like pinkish hair, I think.
The ones that fight have like whitish pink. The ones in the tubes are all brown hair.
It could be the difference between Magus homunculi and millennia homunculi. Different families. Don't know. I don't care.
I think for Shiro, though, the problem that they came across was the problem that they had for all the other characters. They drug it out too long without enough information. I didn't feel endeared to the character. So when this plot twist finally arrives, and then the frickin' season is not finished, and there's no more, it's like, you just left me with like the only good sticking point this entire season has had. And then you're just like, oh, by the way, we're not done. It's like, okay.
Oh, good. So your appetite is whetted. Excellent.
The problem is I didn't care enough to get this far if it wasn't for this show.
I need to know what Jeremy thinks of these.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
I absolutely loved the contrast between Darnik and Vlad, because Vlad is the person who has the reputation of being a vampire, but he doesn't want to be. He never was. Darnik is a soul vampire,
right?
And he's pretending not to be, basically. So that was really cool. Otherwise, Darnik, there was nothing really special about him for me. He was just kind of like an omnipresent leader that was also kind of acting as a manipulative tactician, sort of behind the scenes, pretending that Vlad was always in charge, when in the end, he knows he's pulling the strings. And then when it comes to Shiro, I love the fact that they named him Shiro Kotomine, because it's combining, Stay Night's main character with also a main bad guy of Stay Night and Zero. And I absolutely love that combination. And he's got like the villain's hairstyle, which is awesome, but it's white.
Villain's hairstyle is a priest like the villain, but it's
yes.
the body type of the hero.
Yeah. And he uses the fighting style of the villain, sort of, because like he throws the knives, but he doesn't seem to be doing like the karate, kickboxing, kung fu kind of moves.
Yeah. So don't forget that it doesn't matter. Never mind.
But
he throws the knives, and then he can make them like bounce off walls and project, and that's
which is
hero could do. He could have things shoot out of the air.
Yes.
You're loving it?
I love it. You hate it? Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it was a great nod to the nostalgia. Go ahead.
I didn't want a nod. I wanted it to be the real thing. You had that theory of what if the main character was adopted by the villain.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
And I was so into that. So when we get the reveal of who he really is, I'm like, then why the hell does he look like the two characters combined? That doesn't even make sense.
Okay, here's something else that can just add to the pile for Shiro Kotomine then.
I really love the not quite what he seems, by the way.
Yeah. You know how Joan of Arc names him something else, this other name?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was actually like his heroic spirit was...
I actually read this one.
Did you read this one?
I did.
Okay, so he was the first, or the Japanese Catholic young man that died.
Through the monarchy.
Yeah. Yep.
No, so the reason that I actually look it up, this character shows up in a lot of animes that are like that have historical references. He shows up as a villain like half the time. But I read in this thing that Japan has a statue of him. Is this guy a hero or a villain to Japan?
However they want to use him.
And what's his wish? Why is he fighting this war?
He wants to end the Grail Wars.
Yeah, but we don't know what way. Like, it's such an open-ended idea, like, to end the Grail Wars. Does that mean end everything? Like, I don't know.
It's true, but that's the last thing that is said in the final episode. I want to end these Grail Wars. And based on the flashbacks, I just get the sense that he thinks these Grail Wars cause too much pain and damage, and he was like, yeah, these need to stop. But
he's kind of right.
He's the villain, so does that mean, like, I'm Ultron and I'm going to save humanity by wiping it out, kind of save it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of getting into, like, end-to-end territory, so why don't we describe the Vlad and Darnik scene?
The best scene in the anime so far.
Jeremy, you can do it if you want. It's your anime and your favorite scene.
Yeah. So I absolutely love Vlad as a character. I think he's great just because of all the reasons that we've described. And so, this standing order to Darnik, you cannot use my Dracula noble phantasm. And of course, Darnik sees that Vlad is going to lose. Karna's going to just mop the floor with him. And so he goes, Vlad, I command you to change. He uses his first command seal. I command you to change into, or use your Dracula noble phantasm. And he knows he's going to die. And of course, you see Vlad like struggling against it. He's fighting. He's screaming. He's basically being drugged to hell to become Dracula. And so his first move, as soon as what's that?
So offended. I love it.
Oh,
I love when he's like, he insinuates, hey, you should use it. And he's like, I'm sorry. What did you say?
Yes. So awesome. You really get the sense that he's a ruler. He's a noble guy who's like, I will kill you for saying that, for even suggesting that.
Right.
And so then, of course, his first action is to immediately impale Darnik and grab him and go to bite him like a vampire would. He's like, yeah, you're the first of my minions. What did you think would happen? And so that's when Darnik says, and I want you to have only one goal, and that is to get the Grail, the Greater Grail. And then he says, and I want my third command seal is I want you to merge me with you, basically my essence with you. And so now he is literally merging his soul, just like he's stolen the souls from everyone else. He's now merging his soul with his servant, taking over, trying to become Dracula so that he's in control. But Dracula is also now a mindless beast that's just crazed, like what you would imagine the worst. Maybe like what is that kind of vampire that's always considered the ugly one that, I can't remember. I'll think about
Twilight.
Yeah, right.
That's a little far from that.
Shot of fire. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep. So he's
like how he started to create minions. That was pretty great.
That was.
Well, I want to stop for just a second because this is actually my big problem with Darnik is what's your ultimate plan? You're going to get the Grail and be a vampire?
I know.
That can't be what you wanted from the end.
Yeah. He just completely... I think you were right when you said that through his mergings, he's lost any concept of what he wanted the Grail for, and now he's just got a driving force. Like, he has become that beast, and he just turned Dracula into what he was.
But that's true. Why is his family following him so blindly?
I think he was just a very good con man.
Okay. I did like how even the heroes on his team were like, whoa, we gotta stop this. This is not...
That was pretty great.
Yeah. They're like, this spreads.
They start attacking him. Yeah. He'll bite us. He'll bite everyone. The Grail doesn't even matter right now. This is world ending.
I loved how Karen had to leap in and protect Achilles because Achilles like, I got him. This is great.
Yeah.
But, you know, with his abilities and immortality and everything, if Dracula changes him into this immortal vampire servant of his, that's...
He points out, he can't kill you, but he can change you. So you need to be careful. So all these guys who've been fighting each other team up and just start taking on Dracula. Ruler shows up. She's like, yeah, let's get him. And she like pumps up the other heroes.
Yep.
Like gives them power.
So I was cheering at this. I was like, this is fate. This is what I'm talking about.
And at this scene, the way they wrote it and the way they executed it made it feel like, oh, this happens in all the fates. Ruler comes by, some sort of catastrophe happens, and Ruler uses their command seal, and now you're telling me there's no ruler in any of them.
No, other situations develop where you're dealing with things that are so out of scope for what you expected that it's amazing to witness and to see how they react to it and how they form temporary alliances and stuff.
Great.
But this was that moment with this other character.
Jeremy's right. This is the essence of the Fate series. Like everything starts off with like, okay, we know the teams, this is how everything goes, and then there's backstabs and betrayals and magic rules that get twisted until things are just so bonkers that it's like no one's even really sure who was good and who's bad. We know there's a Grail at the end of the story, but do we even want it anymore? Is this worth it?
I kind of take a step back.
I kind of want to make a very loose connection as a loose analogy, perhaps, to like the Game of Thrones concept of you don't know what's going on in this political game that's taking place.
So Dracula, even though he gets burned nearly to death, he does manage to get away.
Oh my God, I forgot to mention that's what one of the command seals was. You cannot die until you get the Grail.
Right.
That's why the burning didn't finish him off.
But the command seal makes you attempt something. It doesn't actually like write the law of physics. They can kill him.
That's what I would have thought, but
they do. But he dies
only because of something very special. But yeah.
Okay. Well, so if we're going to follow the rules of vampires, fire does hurt them very badly, yes, but it doesn't finish them off unless you burn them to ashes, and he didn't go to ashes during Kern's blast.
Well, actually, it's the fire from, like, imagine the sun, like, burns you right now. Because when Karna manifests, he's actually turning his armor and stuff into molten sun, like fusion.
Oh, that's not just like explosion. No, I like that.
Yeah, so like that was enough to burn him to ash, and the reason it didn't kill him was because of the command seal. And he even makes the comment. He's like, I can't die till I get the Grail or something like that.
Okay.
Dracula does get away. He runs into Shiro, recognizes him. At least the Darnik part of him does. And
snared in a trap, right?
Yeah, which we've seen multiple times that the red team likes to lay down traps, especially in churches.
Actually, what you're going to find is like if you look closely, this was Vlad's last attempt to get back at Darnik because his own spikes come up through his feet. And Darnik even comments, he's like, what, did you think that was going to stop me? Vlad's still trying to stop me. But it was just enough to give Shiro the time to act.
I love Shiro's line here is like, yeah, vampires are very strong. They also come with a lot of specific weaknesses. I'm a priest. How you doing? And throws his holy swords blades into him and does a chant rite of passage thing that kills him.
Yep.
And then Ruler comes in, and then Shiro declares, like, hey, it's good to see you. I'm the guy who's been trying to kill you and the one you've been having visions of, but and she's like, oh, you're the last ruler. And he's like, yeah, and I'm going to stop these Grail Wars. And that's where the episode ends. And we don't know what's going to happen next until we get to the next 12 episodes.
I was frustrated because I was like, this is fate. This is what I was waiting for. It took this long to get the steam up and get it to this point.
This is when I messaged you guys and I was just angry. I'm just like, I can't. I'm so upset right now.
Because you thought this was it. It's done, right?
I was hoping this was it, but I kind of figured there was more.
It's not a great season end. I don't think it'll matter when season 2 comes out. And just so you know, when we're recording this, season 2 has not been officially released on Netflix. I think episodes are airing in Japan, but it's not done yet. And we will come to that in a second when we talk about our next anime, which is actually not going to be this. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. Follow along. But that's the story. So let's go to final reviews.
I loved the battles. This is a beautiful anime. There were a couple characters that felt good, but were unfortunately unexplored due to time constraints. And also, this complete half season felt so out of focus. Like there was no focus. It's like we have this idea, and then just. I want to give it a 3, but I have to give it a 2, and I'm hoping my view will change after the second half. But right now, 2 Bakas for me.
So we have 7 heroes on each side. That's 14. We've got potentially 7 masters. That's another 14. That's 28. We've got a ruler. That's 29. And we've got the main character. Well, he's counted as one of the masters. And we've got the hero, which kicks it up to 30. We've got 30 characters. And
to be fair, and we forgot to mention this, the red masters are also
mostly stay out of the picture. Yeah.
No. Are they dead?
Yeah, I was going to say, I wrote down dead question mark.
Because Assassin came out of there. Yeah, it looked like they were all.
So Shiro took all their command seals because they had their tattoos removed. Their command seals were blurred, so I'm assuming he stole. And he's been running the show and using them almost as the batteries for their team, right? That's my understanding.
I think that they never came out and said it because they were like, everybody wondered where they were.
Yeah, I remember Achilles being like, "Is it weird we haven't met our masters?"
Mm-hmm. But I think Shiro's been having them like held up and locked down back there, and then finally, well, it's time.
Which
is dead.
Why Shishigo ran away, because he sensed like this is going to end badly. I cannot stay here. And he's like, "Let's out. We're out. We are out."
Yeah. Yep.
Outie.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a lot of characters, and granted, we don't see all of them. But even if you take like a third of that and get rid of it, you still have 20 characters, and that's a lot of characters. And I mean, ordinarily in a Fate story, you're going to have, just 14. And many of those aren't going to get much screen time at all. And I think, honestly, it's too many characters. I mean, 20 characters, 25 characters. It's just too many for you to ever really get connected to enough of them. I think that they tried to build it off of the idea that, these characters have their own history. I was arguing this before when we talked about this. In that they have, they've lived through their own life. They've gone through their own character arcs. And so at this point, Fate can just pick them up and say they are fully developed characters, and we're just going to put them in here. And if you know who they are, you're going to enjoy the nuance and the subtlety with them. But I don't think it's enough with that many characters. So I got to say, in the end, I look forward to the next half, but it's 3 for me.
I'm mostly agree with you guys. There's 2 episodes in here that I had a really good time watching, and the rest not so much. Besides for the flashy battle, but there wasn't enough connective tissue between them. There's a few characters I really liked. There's a few moments I really liked, but for the most part, I did not enjoy watching this. With the caveat that I do kind of see where it goes. I've already put in 12 episodes. I'm curious how they wrap this up, what the plan is.
Sounds like you're describing DBZ.
But this 12 episodes I am giving to Bakas. So that is it for us on Fate Apocrypha for now. So we're going to do the same thing we did last year, where we kind of take it easy for the next 2 weeks by watching a movie to end the year. That gives us more free time over the Christmas break in case anyone's traveling or spending time with family. Same for our audience. So the movie we are watching is Your Name. There was a lot of different choices.
Why Godzilla? Why?
Godzilla the anime did not come out on Netflix in time. I really wanted it to be that. And there were a couple more action-oriented movies that were available. But Your Name not only is the highest money-making anime movie of all time, it's won so many awards. It's bonkers and internationally famous. So for my podcast,
sounds right in my wheelhouse.
I want clicks more than anything. I am selling out. To be fair, I've actually already seen it, and it's a really good movie.
You jerk.
Just to be clear, Jeremy and I both opposed to this decision, but
we want to see the zombie movie, but okay.
I'm going to watch that. So if you want to have a sidebar discussion, too, we can talk. We can even do it on the podcast for a little bit, because it's a movie. It won't take as much time. Your Name is about a teenage boy and a teenage girl who switch bodies every couple days, and they have to figure out how to deal with that. And it's a really good movie. I think we will get into that next week. After that,
didn't Lindsay Lohan already do that?
No,
with her teenage boy mom.
Wrong movie. And that's a remake anyway.
Yeah, it is.
After that, Jeremy and Jason both get to pick an anime from any time period they want. It could be old, it could be something they missed and want to watch. There's no rules or restrictions. Like usually we just try to watch something modern or something that's recent or something related to something recent, so that it has name recognition. No rules. It's the new year. We get to start with whatever they feel like doing. They look forward to this, and I look forward to the wacky stuff they're going to make me slide. She last time and Dimension W both ended up being really good. So I'm looking forward to what they pick. After all that, we will come back to Fate Apocrypha and finish the second season. So that is the plan. We would like to hear your comments. You can reach us on our email, theanimebakaclub@gmail.com, or on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. If you have comments on Fate Apocrypha or anything else that we watch, we would love to hear from you. You can leave a comment wherever you found this podcast. I think that covers it.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Sayonara.